Africa has exceeded the world average growth for the past 8 years, is now facing the fastest growth in the region. Is now the fastest growing region in the world, yet it remains overlooked in terms of investment opportunities. Joining us now to take a look at the private equity space is Hisham El-Khazindar, the managing director at Citadel Capital. He's of course joining us from London. Hisham, thank you very much for your time today. Firstly, let's just kick off with a view on private equity and the private equity space right now globally, in the context where we've got the US starting to recover, a lot of data out of there pointing to a stronger than expected recovery, concerns around a slowdown in China. So what does this mean for private equity flows right now?
I think for us as investors who are purely focused on Africa, it means that at last there seems to be greater focus and greater attention starting to be paid to the continent. Africa is just starting to get on the radar screen of global private equity LPs, limited partners, and we've seen over the past year a lot more interest in understanding the continent and exploring opportunities on the part of global investors.
Africa's just starting, but you've been around for some time now. You've of course been focused on the Middle East and Africa. Let's first kick off with your North African exposure. Of course, it has been impacted by the uprisings that we've had as a result of the Arab Spring. Are you starting to see a recovery there in your portfolios in terms of the performance of your key holdings right now?
Sure. When you look at what we've invested in on the continent, approximately $8 billion, over the past, as of today, as you said, invested over the past 8 years. Today, approximately 70% of that $8 billion is invested in the northern part of the continent, using Egypt as a center of gravity, in the way South Africa is a center of gravity for the southern continent. So there's no doubt that it has been a challenging environment to do business in over the course of the past year. For us, however, when you look at the themes we focused on in these investments, whether it's exporters, businesses taking advantage of developing local resources to develop a competitive advantage. These are businesses which we're seeing ultimately benefiting from some of the trends and even some of the volatility that we're seeing in countries such as Egypt. So for example, any devaluation of the Egyptian pound ultimately will be beneficiary for these companies that are significant exporters of a variety of goods, whether it's building materials, whether it's automotive parts, whether it's agricultural products or other resources.
Let's focus in on the energy space, because that's one that you've highlighted has a key role to play in Africa right now. We can't have growth if we don't have energy to fuel that growth. What lessons have you learned from the likes of your key investments like the Egyptian refining company and the focus that you've had there on refineries? Just give us some insights from the Egyptian case study and how that's going to translate into your African strategy.
Absolutely. So on the energy side, there is two areas we focused on. One is the energy generation and downstream energy distribution side. So power generation and power distribution in natural gas, where in Egypt, we've been extremely successful. Today, one of the businesses we own, TAQA, is the largest private sector distributor of natural gas in Egypt, one of the largest private sector players in power generation and distribution. And that is an experience that we've extended into Sudan, and that we're now looking to extend into Kenya and Uganda as far as energy distribution and energy generation is concerned. And as you said, Eleni, this is, without energy, without that type of infrastructure, you cannot have other modes of development.
Okay,
you touched on another important investment of ours.
Yeah.
Please.
No, do continue.
So you touch on another important investment of ours, which is an investment in refining. We've been working on over the past 4 years now, a very large transaction that we hope to close later this year, putting what is essentially a greenfield expansion through a public-private partnership to an old existing refinery. But we'll talk more about that when the deal is actually closed and finalized. I'd rather talk about what we've done so far rather than plans for the future.
Hisham, as you say, that deal still needs to be secured, but you are looking like you're
Correct.
making progress towards that. Hisham, before I let you go, you talk about projects and investing in East Africa, looking at the energy sector. Can you put a figure on the table for us in terms of targets? Because as you say, $8 billion of your $9 billion portfolio pretty much centered on the Middle East. What type of capital are you putting towards, or do you hope to put towards Africa now?
So in East Africa, over the past year and a half, we have invested approximately, we've raised and invested approximately $300 million in debt and equity, primarily in the Rift Valley Railways projects over the past periods. We're looking at opportunities in energy distribution, but also in food processing, in agri-foods. And if I were to put a figure looking at a 12 to 18-month periods, I think you could very well see us invest somewhere between another $200 to $300 million within the East African part of the continent during that period.